Hello, my name is David Lewinsohn. I'm a TB immunologist based in Portland, Oregon, at Oregon Health and Science University, as well as the Portland VA. And I've been interested for some time in how the human immune system recognizes infection with TB. I also chair the Stop TB Partnership Working Group on new vaccines. And I'd like to talk to you today for World TB Day 2023 on the status of TB vaccination. So some of the things that I commonly hear, first of all, and I hear this especially amongst people who have had or have been treated for TB, don't we already have a vaccine? And will they really work? And can we afford these vaccines? And I guess the first question is, does our current vaccine actually work? BCG has been around for more than 100 years, and it's the most commonly given childhood vaccination in the world. And it's widely thought to prevent some of the severe childhood forms of TB, most importantly, TB meningitis. However, I point out here that when we introduce a successful vaccine, we often see dramatic decreases in the prevalence of these diseases. That includes polio, pertussis, and measles, amongst others. And unfortunately, in TB, this is simply not the case. This is the recent WHO Global Report on TB. And what you can appreciate is that the TB has come down maybe modestly, although worse in the last couple of years. And it's been estimated that it will take at least 100 years to end TB at this current rate. So how might we actually end TB? Well, this is clearly not a one-size-fits-all approach. We're going to need new vaccines, drugs with shorter regimens for treatment, improved point-of-care diagnostics, all of which working collaboratively to end TB. Now, this is some modeling that was done on behalf of the Global Plan to End TB that was released just this last year. This is work done by Tess Reichman and David Dowdy, and what it looks at is what's been termed the cost of inaction. That is what happens when we fail to either fund or deploy new tools. And what you can see in this top red line is the status quo, which I just mentioned. If we improve the availability of current tools, we can see that we do, in fact, speed up the elimination of TB or however, to truly attain, or at least even come close to our 2030 targets, we're going to need dramatic investments in new tools. And much of this has to do with the deployment of an efficacious vaccine. Now, I want to highlight that this is really a fantastic time in TB vaccinology. We've seen an unprecedented number of very supportive studies. We have human vaccination with a recombinant subunit vaccine that actually has been shown to prevent TB, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a moment. We can prevent infection with TB with an H4 vaccine or BCG. In several animal models, we've had very promising results with either a recombinant CMV vaccine, IV BCG, or with TB-Vac, all of which demonstrate the feasibility of TB vaccination. And two studies which have been done in humans are the first demonstration of TB vaccine efficacy since BCG, which was over 100 years ago. And this is both the prevention of infection study that was done for H4 or BCG, and I think very excitingly, the phase 2b controlled trial of M72 AS01E. These really demonstrate that new approaches can prevent TB infection and TB disease. And I'm going to highlight that we have 15 candidates in the global TB clinical pipeline, all of which could be quite promising. So this is the pipeline arranged from phase 1, which means that they've been done in phase 1 studies in humans, to phase 2A and 2B, and 2B encompassing usually some efficacy, and phase 3 studies as well. If I actually look at those that are truly in under current evaluation, this number gets to be quite a bit smaller. And I'm going to just touch on the M72 vaccine that I highlighted previously. But this also highlights the idea that our pipeline is empty. And I think it's really important to note that what I would love to see in this pipeline is something the reverse. Many candidates that are entering into early stage clinical evaluation, leading to many down the road. And the reason for this is it seems unlikely to me that one vaccine is going to work for all indications. That is, vaccines that work in people already infected maybe not be the same in preventing infection. And we can imagine that in children, in those with HIV that we may need very different vaccination strategies as well. So just to touch on some recent progress. So this was actually a prevention of infection trial with the recombinant subunit vaccine M72AS01E. This was done in about 3,500 adults in 3 different clinical sites. And it was a phase 2b study, but incorporated the ability to look at efficacy. And what you can see is that amongst those thought to be infected with TB, that is those who are quantiferin positive, we had about a 50% reduction in the likelihood of developing TB during this 3-year interval. That's incredibly exciting as this occurred in people already infected. And the vaccine was thought to be safe and had very limited reactogenicity. So we're now looking at this vaccine entering into phase 3 trials. This will necessarily include those with and without TB infection. This will necessarily include those living with HIV. And it's estimated because many people with TB infection do not progress to TB, and because the timing of that is slow, that still will take about 14,000 participants over a period of approximately 2 to 3 years. And it's been estimated that this trial alone will cost about $500 million. So how are we doing with TB funding? Well, this is from the TAG report. And what you can appreciate is that going back to 2005, TB funding has been relatively flat. And in fact, there's currently only about half of the 2.5 billion target that was asked for at the 2018 high-level meeting. And in terms of vaccines, we were hoping to have about $3 billion in funding. And what we currently have is about $460 million. So well short of what would be needed. And what you can appreciate is that if we look at who's funding these TB vaccines, it's a very small number of players, with the NIH and the Gates Foundation playing a significant role. And it's been estimated that if you can give about $10 million, you could be a top 20 funder in TB. Now, how does this compare to COVID? Well, this is COVID funding in 2021, and where TB received about 120 million, COVID received $53 billion. And what I think this reflects is the ambition and urgency that was seen in developing COVID vaccines. So I'd like to leave you with a little bit of food for thought. First of all, the science supports the feasibility of TB vaccination. Getting to licensure will require significant investments, and we are well short of those investments now. And I think what this highlights is our ambition is lacking. We need to invest in novel vaccines. We need to significantly invest in clinical trials. And I think importantly, we need to invest in public-private partnerships. And with that, I kind of wish you a happy World TB Day, and just wanted to give you a sense for the state of TB vaccines. Thank you.